We are told that leaving is an act of strength, a liberation, a shedding of an old skin. We imagine the woman who walks away as a woman who has found her compass. But often, the exit is not a destination. It is merely a relocation of the ache. She thought she was escaping a room that had grown too small, too dim, too predictable. She sought the vast open air of the self, but then the door shuts, and in the sudden violent quiet of her new autonomy, she realizes she didn't just leave a partner, she left a mirror. You see, we do not just love people, we love the version of ourselves that exists only in their presence. When she loses you, she loses the curator of her best stories. She loses the witness to her smallest, most domestic triumphs. The first hidden sign of regret is not a phone call. It is not a tearful plea. It is the existential vertigo that sets in when she realizes that freedom is also a form of exile. She sits in her new sanctuary, the apartment she chose, the life she curated, and she feels the weight of the air. It is too light. It lacks the friction of your presence. The boring security she fled now reveals itself as the very soil in which her aliveness was rooted. The paradox, she wanted to be happy without the burden of your expectations, but she finds herself unhappy because there is no one left to expect anything of her. The void is not empty space, it is a structural failure of the heart. She begins to realize that while she changed the locks, she kept the ghost. She is haunted not by who you were, but by the hollow space where your us used to breathe. Regret, in its infancy, is the terrifying realization that she has successfully escaped, only to find herself completely alone in the theatre of her own life. The mask is beginning to slip. She is no longer running to something, she is standing still, listening to the echo of a door that she realized, too late, she didn't actually want to lock. The breakup used to be a clean excision, a surgical removal. You burned the letters, you moved to a different neighborhood, you let the memory fade into the soft focus of time. But today we live in the age of the digital ghost. The second sign of her regret is not a message, it is a glance. It is the flickering light of her phone in the middle of the night, a glowing blue hearth she huddles around to searching for a trace of you. She is ghosting your life, but she is the one who is haunted. Watch the rhythm of her presence. It is a choreography of proximity and distance. She views your story within seconds of it being posted, then she disappears for 3 days. She likes a photo from 3 years ago, a digital slip of the finger, and then she unlikes it instantly. Why? Because she is trying to regulate her own pulse. She wants to see if you are surviving, and she's terrified to find out that you are thriving. This is the paradox of proximity. She left the relationship to get away from you, yet she uses the screen to stay closer than ever. She is an observer in a life she no longer has a visa to inhabit. She is looking for a sign, not a sign of your success, but a sign of your absence. She scrolls through your feed looking for the shadow of another woman, the glint of a new joy, the shimmer of a life that no longer requires her breath to sustain it. When she sees you at a party laughing, she doesn't feel relief that you are okay. She feels a sharp, jagged pang of irrelevance. This digital surveillance is a form of limerent monitoring. She is keeping the umbilical cord attached even though she was the one who cut it. She is feeding on the scraps of your public persona because the private intimacy, the way you smelled in the morning, the way you said her name when you were tired, is now a closed book. She is a tourist in your timeline. She lingers at the landmarks of your common history. She checks your Spotify to see if the songs you are listening to are sad enough to validate her own grief. It is a quiet, desperate hunger, a need to remain the ghost in the machine of your heart. She isn't checking on you because she cares if you've paid your rent. She is checking to see if the space she left behind has been filled or if the wound is still bleeding. Because as long as you are hurting, she still exists. As long as you are mourning, she hasn't truly lost you. The true regret begins the moment she realizes she is looking at a stranger who happens to have your face. There is a particular kind of intoxication that comes with the decision to leave. A rush of adrenaline, a narrative of finding oneself. The seductive promise of the tabula rasa. She imagined a world of vibrant colors, of new skins, of a lightness that you and the domesticity of your love were supposedly weighing down. But then, the adrenaline fades. The new becomes the normal. And this is where the third sign of regret begins to ache. It is the contrast effect. She begins to compare the idealized stranger to the known companion. In the beginning, she sought the adventure. She wanted the spark, the mystery, the men who didn't know her coffee order, or the way she cried when she was frustrated. She wanted the theatrical version of romance. But she soon discovers that adventure is exhausting, and mystery is often just a lack of depth. She goes on dates that feel like interviews. She shares her body with people who don't know the map of her scars. She talks, but she has to explain the jokes. She has to provide the footnotes to her own life. And suddenly, the sanctuary of your relationship starts to look less like a cage and more like a home, the hidden sign. It is a subtle, creeping irritability with the present. She finds herself annoyed by the very things she thought she wanted. The exciting spontaneity of a new suitor feels like unreliability. The independence she craved feels like isolation. She begins to engage in retrospective editing. She looks at her current life, perhaps a life of bars of apps, of surface-level validation, and she feels a profound sense of existential poverty. She realizes that you were the one who held the archive of her soul. You were the one who understood the shorthand. With you, she didn't have to perform. Regret is the moment she realizes she traded a diamond for a mirror. The diamond was hard, it had edges, it required work to polish, but it was real. The mirror only reflects her own loneliness back at her. She starts to experience a devaluation of her new world. She might post about her best life, but the photos are oversaturated. The smiles are too wide, the captions are too defensive. It is a performance for an audience of one you. She is trying to convince herself that the trade was worth it. But in the quiet of the 3 a.m. darkness, when the adventure has gone home and the independence is just a cold pillow, she realizes that the grass wasn't greener. It was just artificial turf. She has reached the limits of her own rebellion. And now, she is standing at the border of the life she destroyed, wondering if the bridge is still standing, or if she burned it just to see the fire. The mind is a seductive editor. When we are in the thick of a relationship, we focus on the friction, the wet towels, the unresolved arguments, the suffocating weight of forever. But when the silence of the afterward becomes too loud, the mind begins to perform a psychological retouching. This is the fourth sign, the curation of the museum. She begins to erase the domesticity that once felt like a chore and replaces it with poetry. Suddenly the mundane becomes the monumental. The way you made her coffee isn't a routine, it's a ritual of devotion she can't find elsewhere. The way you held her hand during a boring movie isn't a habit, it's a tether she now feels floating away from. She is weaponizing her own nostalgia against her decision to leave. You will see this manifest in the nostalgic reach out. It's the text that says, "I just walked past that bakery we used to go to, hope you're doing well." Notice the phrasing. It isn't an apology. It isn't an invitation. It is a probing of the perimeter. She is inviting you into the museum she has built. She wants to see if you still have the key. She is suffering from selective amnesia. She has forgotten why she felt trapped. She has forgotten the reason she gave for the irreconcilable differences. In her mind, she is now the protagonist in a tragic romance, and you are the one who got away, even though she was the one who let go. The paradox, she is in love with the version of you she created after you left. This nostalgia is a drug. It numbs the pain of her current reality. If her new life feels thin, if the men she meets are shadows, she retreats into the high-definition memory of you. She starts to wear your old t-shirt again, not to sleep in but to inhabit the scent of a safety she discarded. She is looking for a sanctuary in a past that no longer exists. She starts to post throwback content songs, quotes locations that are coded messages, a digital breadcrumb trail leading back to the golden hour of your union. She is testing the waters, seeing if the poetry of your history can still stir a ghost in you. But here is the danger. She isn't necessarily missing you. She is missing the security of being known. She is missing the mirror that reflected her as someone worth staying for. She is mourning the loss of her witness, and as she wanders through the halls of her weaponized nostalgia, she realizes that while she can visit the museum, she can never live there again. The golden hour has passed, and the shadows are getting very, very long. There is a grand deception in our modern culture. We are told that the goal of life is to be happy. We equate happiness with a lack of tension, a lack of conflict, a smooth, frictionless existence. She may have left you because she felt the spark had died, because the domesticity of your life together had become a comfortable, suffocating blanket. She left to find her fire. But here is the fifth sign, the existential vertigo of the void. She went out into the world seeking a thunderstorm, and she found only a cold, biting wind. She realized that the boredom she felt with you wasn't a death, it was a sanctuary. It was the quiet, steady hum of a machine that worked. Now, she is in the chaos. She is meeting men who are unpredictable, who are exciting, who don't call when they say they will. At first, this feels like aliveness. It feels like the electric pulse she was missing. But soon, the adrenaline curdles into anxiety. She begins to realize that there is a profound difference between the aliveness of a storm and the aliveness of a garden. The storm is spectacular, but it leaves you shivering and homeless. The garden is quiet, it requires work, but it feeds you. The hidden sign is a sudden exhaustion with the new. You will see it in her eyes if you encounter her. A certain flatness, a weariness. She is realizing that the adventure she sought is actually a series of shallow transactions. She is performing fun for people who don't care if she's safe. She is free, but she is also unprotected. The paradox. She missed the longing she used to feel for you. But now that she has lost you, the longing is so vast it threatens to swallow her whole. She starts to experience a crisis of meaning. She looks at the life she built with you, the inside jokes, the shared bank accounts, the plans for a kitchen renovation, and she sees substance. She looks at her current life, the curated Instagram stories, the temporary lovers, the self-care rituals, and she sees surface. She is mourning the gravity of your relationship. She realizes that happiness is a fleeting emotion, but aliveness is rooted in being known. To be truly alive is to be seen in your mess, in your morning breath, in your failure. And to still be loved. The new men see only her highlight reel. You saw the behind the scenes. She begins to regret the trade. She realizes she threw away a masterpiece because she was distracted by a neon sign. The neon sign is bright. It flickers. It calls to the eye. But the masterpiece is what sustains the soul. She is now wandering the streets of her own freedom, looking for a way back to the boring piece she once called a cage. She is realizing that the cage was actually the only place she ever felt truly free to be herself. Directly reaching out is a risk. It is a confession of failure. It is an admission that the new life isn't as shiny as she promised it would be. So, she employs the indirect reach. This is the sixth sign, the proxy connection. She doesn't call you, she calls your mother. She doesn't text you. She accidentally likes a photo of your dog posted by your best friend. She is maintaining a peripheral presence. She is hovering at the edges of your social ecosystem, keeping the soil of your world damp so that nothing else can grow there. It is a psychological territorialism. She may reach out to check in on a mutual friend's crisis, or she suddenly remembers she left a mundane item at your house, a sweater, a book, a charger, something of low value but high emotional weight. It is an excuse for a collision. Why? Because she is testing the emotional temperature. She wants to see if your door is still unlocked, or if you've changed the access codes to your heart. She is looking for a reaction, any reaction. Even anger is better than the cold clinical silence of indifference. The paradox. She wants to remain a citizen of your world without paying the taxes of the relationship. She is suffering from the fear of replacement. By staying in touch with your family, by lingering in your social circle, she is making herself unerasable. She is ensuring that your friends still mention her name, that your mother still sighs when she sees her, that your world remains haunted by the ghost of what was. The hidden sign is the strategic care. She sends a happy birthday text to your sister, but not to you. She is playing a game of emotional billiards, hitting the side cushions to eventually reach the target. She is trying to keep the back door open. She isn't ready to walk through it yet, but she is terrified of it being boarded up. She is a woman who is hedging her bets. She is exploring the new world, while keeping a safe house in the old one. But here is the visceral truth. This isn't love. It is anxiety. It is the regret of a woman who realizes she has lost her anchor, and she's frantically trying to find something to tie her boat to before the tide takes her too far out to sea. She's realizing that when she left you, she also left the community of you. And the new world is a very, very lonely place when there is no one who remembers your name from 5 years ago. There is a silence that follows a true ending, a quiet, heavy mourning. But when regret is clawing at the throat, the response is often not silence. It is noise. This is the seventh sign, the hypervisible resurrection. She isn't just moving on, she is broadcasting her ascension. You see it in the sudden surge of aliveness on her social feeds, the gym selfies with captions about inner strength, the blurred photos of cocktail glasses and anonymous shoulders, the rebound that looks suspiciously like a photo shoot. It is a performative liberation. But look closer at the rhythm. True happiness is quiet. It doesn't need a witness. It doesn't need to prove its existence to an ex-lover. This loud moving on is actually a defensive wall. She is building a monument to her new life to hide the crumbling ruins of her old certainty. She is engaging in reactionary romance. She finds someone who is the polar opposite of you. If you were the stable sanctuary, he is the unpredictable storm. If you were the intellectual partner, he is the physical distraction. She isn't choosing him for who he is. She is choosing him for who you aren't. She is using another human being as a shield against her own nostalgia. The paradox. The more she tries to show you she is over you, the more she reveals how much you still govern her actions. If she were truly indifferent, she wouldn't care if you saw her dancing. She wouldn't need to curate the perfect accidental run-in. She is suffering from the audience of one. Behind the filters, behind the forced laughter of a night out she didn't actually enjoy, is a woman checking her viewers list. She is looking for your name. She is throwing a party and hoping you'll hear the music from the street. She is trying to vanquish the ghost by filling the house with strangers. But the strangers leave, the lights go down, and in the ringing silence of the after party she realizes that her new life is a stage set and the lead actor is missing. She is realizing that a rebound is just a tourniquet. It stops the bleeding for a moment, but it doesn't heal the wound. It only numbs the limb until it turns cold. Regret in this stage is a frantic race to outrun the memory of your voice, but the faster she runs, the more she realizes she is just running in a circle, and the center of that circle is still you. The mind can be a master of deception. She can tell herself she is better off. She can convince herself that the decision was rational. She can craft a narrative of evolution and growth. But the body is a literalist. It does not care for her logic. The eighth sign is the phantom limb of the heart. Long after she has deleted your number, her body still waits for yours. It is the somatic memory of the relationship. We forget that love is not just a psychological state. It is a biological entrainment. Over months and years, your nervous systems began to regulate one another. Your breathing synchronized in sleep. Your sense became the safe code for her brain's amygdala. When she loses you, her body enters a state of physiological withdrawal. The hidden sign is a subtle, pervasive restlessness. She finds she cannot sleep in the center of the bed. She still hugs the edge, leaving a cold, empty space for a weight that is no longer there. She experiences a sensory hunger. She catches a whiff of your detergent on a stranger in the subway, and for a split second, her heart rate spikes to 120 beats per minute. That isn't nostalgia, that is a nervous system in crisis. She feels a profound sense of dysregulation. Without the co-regulation of your presence, her stress levels are higher. Her sleep is thinner. She feels exposed, as if she's lost a layer of skin. The paradox, she wanted her space, but her body feels that space as a laceration. She may find herself reaching for her phone the moment something funny happens, her thumb hovering over your name before the logic of the breakup kicks in. This is the neural path of your connection still firing. Her brain hasn't received the memo that the sanctuary has been demolished. She is experiencing the hunger of the skin. No amount of self-care or new experiences can replace the specific oxytocin-rich comfort of a partner who knows exactly where to place their hand to calm her breathing. She realizes that she didn't just walk away from a person, she walked away from her primary source of safety. Regret in this somatic stage is a physical ache. It is the feeling of being untethered in a vacuum. She is realizing that her mind made a choice that her body refuses to ratify. She is a woman living in a house where the power has been cut, shivering in the dark, wondering why she ever thought the cold was the same thing as freedom. Regret is often viewed as a weakness, a failure of resolve, a pathetic longing for a dead past. But in the Perel method, we see it differently. We see regret as a sacred messenger. The ninth sign is the softening of the narrative. She stops blaming you. She stops talking about the reasons it didn't work. The anger, that hot protective shield, begins to melt. In its place comes a quiet, devastating clarity. She no longer sees the relationship as a battle she lost or won, but as a landscape she once inhabited and now realizes was beautiful. This is the integration of the paradox. She realizes that she could have been happy with you and still felt trapped. She realizes she could have loved you deeply and still needed to leave. Regret is not always a sign that she made a mistake. It is a sign that she has finally realized the value of what was sacrificed. She begins to see you not as an ex, but as a foundational architect of her life. The hidden sign here is the direct, vulnerable truth. If she reaches out now, it isn't with a game or a proxy, it is with a thank you, or a I'm sorry, or a simple terrifying I miss the way we were. It is the moment she stops trying to win the breakup and starts trying to honor the history. She has moved past the aliveness crisis. She has moved past the digital ghost. She is now standing in the erotic mourning of the relationship. She is mourning the loss of the us that can never be recreated, even if you were to get back together tomorrow. Because that is the ultimate paradox of regret. You cannot go back to the sanctuary. Once the walls have been breached, the sanctuary is gone. You can only build a new one. She realizes that you were the witness to her evolution, and now she is evolving alone. This is the final awakening. She recognizes that she didn't just lose a partner, she lost the poetry of the everyday. She lost the sanctuary of the known. She is now free, but she is also unseen. We leave her there in the quiet, sophisticated grief of a woman who knows exactly what she threw away, and exactly why she can never quite get it back. She has unmasked herself. She has seen the skin and finally understood the mind. She has realized that the most profound form of aliveness isn't found in the new. It is found in the depth of the old. She sits in the silence of her own choosing, surrounded by the freedom she once prayed for, listening to the ghost of your laughter in the hallway. She has the life she wanted, but does she have the soul she needs? And so we must ask ourselves, is the greatest tragedy of love that we only truly see the sanctuary once we have already set it on fire?